So it's that time of year again where we start our predictions for the new F1 season. And this one's come a lot later than normal because I was waiting until the end of testing to do this prediction really, but after testing I still don't really know what order the teams are in. But this is just a bit of fun, isn't it? So let's just do it anyway. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. That's what predictions are for. So when I did this last year, I had like awards that I was predicting drivers to get, like most underrated, biggest flop, stuff like that. I'm getting rid of that this time, and instead I'm doing 6 statement predictions rather than just the 3. So I guess let's start off with those statement predictions first, and then we'll get on to the Drivers' Championship predictions afterwards. And my first big prediction, as I've labelled it on my sheet here, is that there will be at least 2 new race winners this season. I know some people might say 3, but I'm going conservative and going with 2. George Russell and Carlos Sainz are probably the 2 major players in that prediction coming true, because one's driving for Mercedes now when he was at the back of the grid before, and the other one is in a potential race-winning Ferrari this season. Doesn't have to be those 2, I've not said that, it could be 2 of anyone. Next up, I think that 8 different teams will get at least 1 podium finish. That's what happened last season. Alfa Romeo and Haas were the only 2 teams that didn't get a podium finish last season. So while this may seem conservative because it happened last season, you never know. We might get an entire season of Mercedes and Red Bull, or Red Bull and Ferrari on the podium only. You never know. My third big prediction is that I think that every driver will score points this season. I think that all 20 drivers will score at least 1 point this season, because I just think that the field's quite close. It seems quite close, especially after testing. So I feel that there will be a point where every single driver can score points. Another big prediction, and this one does come from testing, and it is a direct result of watching testing. Mercedes won't win in the first 5 races. Yes, we all know that Mercedes are really good at starting off the season. 2019, they did like the first 5 or 6 races with a 1-2. 2020, they started off really strong as well. 2021, Hamilton won 3 of the first 4 races. But they're not looking great in testing. I know they didn't last year either, but this year they're looking even worse than they did last year. And Lewis Hamilton's come out and said that he doesn't think they'll be competing for wins right at the start of the season. So I'm going to back him on that one. And I'm going to say that Mercedes will not win a race in the first 5, but you'll see with my Drivers' Championship predictions later on how well I think they're going to do after that. My 5th big prediction, I think that Oscar Piastri will compete in at least 1 race this season. Of course, Oscar Piastri, he is the Formula 2 champion for 2021, and he is now Alpine's reserve driver for this season. This prediction was made before Alpine and McLaren announced a deal where he could drive for McLaren if one of their drivers is unavailable. I did this sheet like earlier this week. This is being recorded on Sunday the 13th of March, by the way, 1 week before the first race. I have no idea when this video comes out though, because I don't have a lot of time to edit videos right now. And my final big prediction is that I think that there will be more than 2 drivers in the title race. That seems a bit broad in terms of the statement, so what am I trying to say there? Basically, right, think back to last season, right? Hamilton and Verstappen. It was literally those 2. Yeah, Bottas was finishing 3rd all the time, but it was literally Hamilton and Verstappen winning and coming 2nd in a lot of the first few races, and they just shot off out in front in the title race. So really, it was only realistically those 2 in the title fight. 2020, it was Hamilton and Bottas because the Mercedes was just all-powerful, all-conquering. And in 2019, it was the same deal because they had like the first 5 races of them finishing 1-2. It was only ever really Hamilton and Bottas in the title fight. And 2018, it was Hamilton and Vettel. 2017, it was Hamilton and Vettel. Can you see what I'm getting at here? So if we get a few different winners, maybe, 3 or 4 winners in the first 6 races, then, you've got at least 2 or 3 or even 4 people who are in contention for the title fight. I'm not saying that the title fight will go all the way to the end of the season, because one's got to win it eventually, but if there's like 3 drivers in contention all the way up until, I don't know, the 14th or 15th race or something, and then one of them shoots off into the distance, I will consider that a win for that prediction. And just to go into a little bit more detail on that, because I had a look at last season, because of course we had Hamilton and Verstappen, but Bottas was also there for quite a bit of it as well. I had a look at like the race wins and stuff like that, and 14 out of the 22 races in 2021 were a Hamilton and Verstappen 1-2. So that just proves that it was only really those two ever in the title fight. And only 2 races didn't have at least one of them in the top 2, and those races were Baku and Monza. Baku, of course, where the podium was Perez, Vettel, Gasly, and Monza, where the podium was Ricardo, Norris, Bottas. And now we get on to the Drivers' Championship, and honestly, it's so hard to predict the Drivers' Championship this season because there's so many teams. Like, in testing, you don't know who's got a lot of fuel, who's doing glory runs, who's doing long runs. You don't really know what's happening, and the times don't represent anything really. I mean, the fastest time of the test was set by Max Verstappen, and it was half a second quicker than anyone else, so Red Bull are definitely not that far ahead looking at the entirety of testing. So, in P20, last place in the championship. Unfortunately, I can't really see anyone else finishing here other than Guan Yu Zhou. I know it's tough, he's a rookie, that's pretty much it, and I don't really have much confidence in Alfa Romeo, I really don't. I still think he'll score points. Like I said, all 20 drivers will score points this season, I've just got that feeling. But honestly, I can't see anyone else finishing last other than him. I'm not, he's a great driver, he deserves to be in F1 in my opinion, but it's just not, I just don't see anyone else finishing last. P19, I have gone for Mick Schumacher. That's exactly where he finished last season. It's hard to predict where Haas really are because they've had that extra running in testing, and then you've got Kevin Magnussen setting the fastest lap on day 2, and then Mick Schumacher setting the second fastest lap on day 3, but they've also had issues with their car, and it's just like, I don't know the true pace of that car. 18th, I've gone for Nicholas Latifi. Again, it's hard to tell. It means I've got an Alfa, a Haas, and a Williams as the bottom 3. I feel like it just makes sense. I feel like there would be one of each in the bottom 3 of the championship, and unfortunately, I rate Albon more than I rate Latifi. The thing is with Latifi is that you don't really see him all that much. I said this last year. He's got decent race pace, but because he's so far down, you'd never really notice him. He sort of just stays where he is. You might get a decent start, go from like, I don't know, 18th to 14th, and then he just stays in 14th. 17th, I've gone for Kevin Magnussen. The comeback kid, as he called himself. It's still weird putting him in this predictions list because it's still it happened quite quickly, and you can't quite believe that he's actually racing in F1 again this year. But Magnussen, it's a good benchmark for Mick Schumacher, isn't it? And I think Magnussen will just have the edge on Mick Schumacher because whilst everyone's saying, yeah, Mick Schumacher normally sort of struggles in his first year in a category before the second year he does really well, you got to remember that, yes, last year was his first year in Formula 1, but this year is the first year of these Formula 1 regulations and the cars are completely different. So I feel like Mick Schumacher will struggle a bit more again. And Magnussen, because again, it's the first year of the regulations for everyone, but Magnussen's a more experienced driver. P16, and this one might shock some of you a little bit, but I've gone for Esteban Ocon. I don't have much confidence in Alpine, I really don't. It seems like a car that, they said it themselves, they put in performance over reliability, and I think that'll come back to bite them a little bit. Might get quite a few high finishes, but they'll also get quite a few retirements, especially if they're putting performance over reliability, and I think Ocon will suffer more than Alonso will, so that's why I've put him that low down. P15, I've gone for Valtteri Bottas. Again, I just don't have much confidence in Alfa Romeo. I can't really picture myself putting Bottas any higher than that. I don't think Alfa Romeo will have a good season, simple as that. I do rate Bottas. I think Bottas is a really good driver, and I think Alfa Romeo have done really well to be able to get him in their team. But Alfa Romeo themselves are not the greatest of teams. Last season, their car was alright, but the strategies were off. The pit stops were off. Everything just seemed off about the team. But yeah, I think Bottas is a much more solid driver now than Raikkonen is now, if you know what I mean. Like, obviously, Raikkonen's just retired from F1. He wasn't that great anymore. He was still a decent driver, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Bottas would have the edge over Raikkonen if they were both in the same team. 14th place, I have gone for Lance Stroll. It's so weird putting him this low down as well, because I feel like Aston Martin might have a better season, but at the same time, I don't know. It's really weird to sort of deviate away from the order of last season coming into these new regulations. I mean, I put Bottas in 15th, he might finish in 4th, you know, Alfa Romeo might be really quick, you never know. And I really want Lance Stroll to do well, because he's just got this cloud over him constantly of being a pay driver, and people think he's only an F1 because his dad owns a team and all that sort of stuff. And maybe that is the case, I don't know, but it's so like, I almost want him to do well to get rid of those sort of things that people say about him. But I just feel like this season isn't it for him. I just feel like this isn't the season for him. 13th place, I've gone for Alex Albon. He's come back into F1 with a point to prove, hasn't he, Alex Albon? And in the Williams, a team that is on an upwards trajectory, I feel like he'll shine in that team. Also thinking back to F2 when he was teammates with Latifi at Dams, he absolutely wiped the floor with Latifi at Dams. I'm not saying he'll wipe the floor with Latifi, although I've put him a few spots higher, but it just feels like that Albon will get a better feeling out of that car. I don't know. Again, Williams is a hard one to gauge where they are, because Albon did really well on day 1 of testing, and then on day 2 the brakes exploded, so it's like they lost the whole day pretty much. P12, I've gone for Fernando Alonso. That's 2 places lower than I predicted him last season. I think 2 places lower than where he actually finished. Again, I go back to what I said when I was talking about Ocon. I don't have much confidence in Alpine. They say they've gone for performance over reliability. Alonso's been in a team like that before. It's not worked out. It's not a good feeling around Alpine at the moment in my head. In 11th, I've gone for Yuki Tsunoda. I don't know, that AlphaTauri looks good, doesn't it? I mean, there was a whole race between Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton on the final day of testing. And whilst the Mercedes, you know, it feels like Mercedes and AlphaTauri are quite close after looking at that. But then again, it was half-hearted racing, really. It was just testing to see if the cars could follow. But yeah, AlphaTauri are just, again, constantly on the up, aren't they? Like, they're getting closer and closer to the top of the midfield. And I feel like Yuki will step it up as well this season. You know, after watching Drive to Survive as well, you know, you could tell that last season he was sort of getting used to the lifestyle of a Formula 1 driver. Like, you know, he had to step up his training. He moved to Faenza to be closer to AlphaTauri rather than being Milton Keynes and Red Bull. You know, so I feel like Yuki has now got all the tools and the lifestyle, I guess, to actually sort of really improve this season. In 10th, I've gone for Sebastian Vettel. I think he'll eke everything possible out of that Aston Martin. I don't know, Aston Martin's such a tough one because they're not a team that should be finishing in 7th in the Constructors. But it's hard to lift them further up. I don't know. It's like, what do I do? I'm always panicking whilst making these predictions because I'm just like, oh yeah, but Vettel could be 10th, he could be 13th, he could be 5th. It's so like, all of these positions I've put down are just like, no real proper thought has gone into this really, because it can't happen. I can't be like, oh yeah, Vettel's 10th. Because Aston Martin are bang average, because I don't know if Aston Martin are bang average. Although this next prediction might sort of give you a clue as to a team that I think is sort of bang average, and on P9 I've put Pierre Gasly. So I've gone for Gasly in 9th and Tsunoda in 11th, which basically puts AlphaTauri right in the middle of everything. But I mean, that's good for them, isn't it? That's higher than they've ever finished, or at least, you know, they will get more points than they've ever got. If Gasly finishes in 9th and Tsunoda 11th, at least that's my thought anyway. Gasly will just continue to be solid. Personally, I think he'll get a Red Bull drive in 2023, after Helmut Marko constantly saying that Perez is old. So Gasly will just drive the socks off of that car this season, and he'll continue to do what Pierre Gasly does best, and that is get the car higher than it should be. P8, I've gone for Daniel Ricardo, finished in 8th in 2021 as well. It's weird. Daniel Ricciardo is such a good driver. He just couldn't get to grips with that 2021 McLaren, and now we've come into 2022. The McLaren looked alright in Barcelona, but in Bahrain they've had issues with the brakes. Ricciardo himself missed the entirety of testing because he had COVID. It's just not looking great for McLaren, is it, at the moment? So I feel like Ricciardo will take a little bit of time to get up to speed again, but he won't take as long. But by then, you know, the others ahead of him will have already got up to speed, and it'll be a bit, you know, he'll sort of be stuck in a little bit of no man's land, if anything, I think. P7, this might be slightly controversial, Sergio Perez. I think that Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren will be quite close, especially at the start of the season. All 4 of them, I think, will be quite close. And I think Perez whilst this sounds a bit harsh maybe, I think Perez might get found out a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, Sergio Perez is a fantastic driver. He's very good at managing his tyres, he's good at race pace and all that sort of stuff. Over one lap, he's a little bit and that sort of, he got found out with that in the very first race of last season. He was in arguably the best car on the grid in the Red Bull at Bahrain last season, and he qualified 11th, when his teammate qualified 4/10 quicker than anyone else. And I know his teammate is Max Verstappen, and Max Verstappen is just out of this planet, but still, you know, it's weird. Sergio Perez is such a weird driver. Like, he's really good most of the time, but he has his moments. He seems like quite a clumsy driver sometimes. And I feel like, especially with these cars looking a bit more, they'll be getting used to him, new tyres, new cars. Perez might take a little bit of time to get used to it. P6, I've gone for Lando Norris. Same place he finished last year again. Similar year, I think. A similar year for Lando Norris. He'll be up there constantly. He'll get a few podiums maybe. Hopefully first win. You never know. But yeah, Lando Norris, I'm expecting a similar season from him, just solid as always. P5, again, predicting someone in the same place they finished last season, and that is Carlos Sainz. I mean, the fact he finished ahead of Leclerc last season was nothing short of unbelievable, really, because Leclerc had a better season the whole way through, pretty much. It's just that Sainz was more consistent. Leclerc was consistently up there, scoring big points, but also making quite a lot of mistakes and, DNFs and all that sort of stuff. Whereas Carlos Sainz went 14 races in a row with point scoring. Like, he was incredibly consistent, and I feel like he'll do the same thing again. Although if Ferrari are going to be a race-winning outfit, which it looks like they could be, I don't know, it's hard to predict. P4, I've gone for George Russell. Again, with Mercedes not really being a race-winning outfit at the start of the season, potentially, Russell will be behind Lewis, won't he? I mean, George Russell will take a little bit of time to sort of get accustomed to being at the front again, maybe, and just sort of, he'll probably finish in around 4th or 5th-ish in most of the races. Well, at least right at the start, and then it might climb up to 3rd or something. But I think once Russell gets it down, he will be a force to be reckoned with. But I think this season won't quite happen for him entirely this season. It'll be 2023 when I think he really gets his mojo going. P3, I've gone with the 2021 champion Max Verstappen. I just feel like out of those top 4 teams, Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, at the moment they look like the best car, if not the second best car at the very least. But I just can't see past Mercedes not necessarily being slow on purpose, but sorting out their issues before Bahrain. I can just see them sorting it out. And then as the season goes on, Mercedes will just sort of climb back up to the top again, and Red Bull and Ferrari will be battling it out for second. But again, there's no bias in this, so don't worry. I've got nothing against Verstappen in any way, shape or form. I'm not someone who sits here and says that, oh, he stole the title last season, he shouldn't have won it, Hamilton should have won it, blah blah blah. No, I just think that the title fight will be that big of a battle, and Verstappen will just lose out this time. It might be very close. I'm predicting it to be very close, because in second place I have put Charles Leclerc. I am believing in the Ferrari hype, but I'm not believing in it enough that I think he'll win the title, like something. I think Leclerc will push Hamilton close. Yes, of course, that means I put Hamilton in first place. Of course it does, like he's the only one that's not there. I think Leclerc will push it close. I think Verstappen will push it close, but I think Lewis Hamilton will just have the edge. I think that Mercedes will get it together after the first few races, and then they will just not necessarily wipe the floor with everyone, because the others will have already got it together before the season even started. But I just can't see past Hamilton winning the title. I just can't see it. It's Lewis Hamilton. I mean, I predicted it last season, but thought it'd be close with Verstappen, and it was close with Verstappen. And let's be real, the stuff that happened in Abu Dhabi did take the title off Hamilton. But at the end of the day, you've got to deal with what's in front of you, and Red Bull dealt with it better than Mercedes did. And Verstappen was a worthy champion. But yeah, I just see Mercedes getting it together and Hamilton winning the title. That's it. That's all I can say. So there we go. That is my 2022 predictions for the F1 season. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. please be respectful. There's no bias here. I'm not British bias or anything like that. I'm British, but I'm not biased. I don't think Hamilton will win because he, you know, deserves it because he had it stolen off him last year, because that's not how I think. This year's a clean slate, new regulations, new cars, new everything, new teams. Just like discuss, really. Don't go attacking people or attacking me, please, because it's just not gonna get you anywhere. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you like what you see and you want to see more, and if you don't want to miss a video, hit that little bell next to the subscribe button. You'll get a notification whenever I upload. I'll try and get this out before the season starts, but if not, then you know why. I just haven't got a lot of time to edit due to work. And hopefully I can have a few more videos out on this channel over the course of the F1 season. I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will find the time for it. I don't know what they'll be. I won't be doing like a sort of series like I did with 5 talking points, because that got boring, hence why I stopped it. There will be like race reviews probably and stuff like that. I've got graphics for it and everything. But yeah, that's it, guys. Until next time, thanks so much for watching.